We're standing in a vineyard today, and this is a post-work. In other words, the crew has already come through and done some necessary fruit droppage. As you can see on the ground, there's a lot of clusters that are on the ground starting to dehydrate, some from maybe a couple weeks ago. But also that we see veraison happening. That's where the beginning of maturity is starting to go, where we start to see the fruit color up. In this case, in the Syrah, it's starting to get very red and deep red colors as you look further in. But the reason for a lot of the fruit dropping is to kind of give a little separation between these big clusters. And you can see, like here, for example, is a fairly large cluster of Syrah, and it just needs a lot of room to grow because these berries will still size up a little bit more. And but as maturity comes on, the clusters and the berries start to get a deeper red. I would say that this fruit is still a month to a month and a half away from actual harvest, but again, you see where they've come through and separated the clusters, so they're basically not touching. There's a wing or a shoulder that was right here they took off, which is like taking off your shoulder. They didn't take off this one right here, but maybe the criteria was not necessary. Also, what's important is to have a lot of exposure onto the fruit, especially on our morning side. It gives us a little bit more light, dappled light, especially inside the canopy, but it provides a lot of light onto that fruit. However, depending on road direction, if you overexpose the afternoon side, you could lead up to some sunburn, some dehydration, some other problems. So taking off leaves and laterals are important, but taking off too much can be detrimental. So that's what this would be. For example, this right here is considered a lateral that rises from the main cane, and again, it's above the cluster, so they did not opt to remove it. Whereas I could see here that they cut this lateral off, probably because it was blocking some light coming in. It seems to the naked eye that a lot of fruit is being dropped, but in reality it's not that much fruit, because we know that the vines can compensate for that. And what I mean by compensate is dropping 25% of the clusters does not necessarily mean you've dropped 25% of the total harvestable weight. But it's also a necessity to put the vine into a better balance with the quantity of clusters per cane growth. An example of that would be over here, where we don't have a very strong cane, but the option was to retain one cluster instead of the two clusters. And again, over here there's one cluster on this short cane. This doesn't even count as a cluster. And there's a cluster here, a cluster. So again, it's called balancing the crop load with the vine. Of course, this is a very young vine in comparison to its two neighbors. But we've got very strong canes that are 2 to 3 feet long and of good diameter. They can easily support two clusters. And I mean by support is mature, get the ripeness that is desired by the winemaker for harvest.